Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with part 4 of What If Naruto Had Time Skip. So let me clear up something really quickly. Naruto still does have the 9 tails. I think in part 1 I said to Naruto the cage was empty, so from his view he couldn't see anything in it because it was too dark. But yeah, the 9 tails is still in there, so that's definitely gonna come up either in this part or maybe the next part. But yeah, look out for that. And with that all said, let's get right into the what if.
Talk to me nice, look, hurt, dirty, hurt, clean. Big body Benz, I got you. Scoop on the creek, get in here like a Mac. Can't fuck with these hoes, these bitches is true. I'm maybe the bitches got niggas attack.
Before we start, I just want to shout out Datara and Posh Spooder, our first 2 channel members, so shout out to them. And yeah, let's get back into the what if. So last time we left off with Team 7, who was stuck between a rock and a hard place. This massive snake came crashing down onto the branch they were on, but they jumped off in time, and this alerted Team Dosu to their presence, and they immediately knew the snake was Orochimaru's doing, so their targets must be close. Naruto, Ino, and Sasuke are hiding in a higher branch, closer to the top of the tree, when Naruto says to them, "Trust me, you two need to run. I'll take care of the team below us." Sasuke and Ino were not about to leave Naruto, both for, very different reasons. Ino actually cared about Naruto, like if he would get hurt, while Sasuke just didn't want to be saved by this numbskull. But Naruto said, "This isn't about me," and he reached into his back pocket and took out the scrolls and handed it to Ino and said to the both of them, "Win and I'll distract them and catch up later." Ino said, "But," and Naruto quickly cut her off and said, "Just go," and Naruto jumped down to Team Dosu. Ino still was reluctant to leave, but Sasuke said, "Let's go or I'm leaving you to die." So they both went off to get the scroll they needed. Meanwhile, they were being watched. This mysterious figure licked his lips and said, "So my prey's coming right to me. What luck." Sasuke was jumping from branch to branch and he had the feeling like he was being watched, and Sasuke stopped for a second and looked around while Ino was wondering what he was looking for. But then from behind him, Orochimaru's neck extended right towards his neck. But before that, let's check in with Naruto. He jumped down and Dosu, Zaku, and Kin were ready to attack. Naruto smiled and said, "You 3 will serve me well as training dummies." Naruto rushed Kin, but Zaku jumped in and shot a combination of air pressure and sound waves out of his palms, and Naruto simply jumped over this attack since it was focused. But before he could counter, Dosu jumped into the air next to him and tried hitting Naruto, but he blocked with his arm. But Dosu's abilities work even if he didn't get a proper hit, and the sound waves from his massive glove reverberated through Naruto's arm, amplifying its effects, and Naruto's eardrums ruptured and he fell to the ground. Dosu laughed and said, "You aren't so tough after all," and went to slam his massive glove into Naruto's chest, but it hit the ground, causing a massive dust cloud. And when it settled, Naruto was gone. He wasn't on the ground anymore, but from behind him, Dosu heard, "That's a neat trick, but it's not effective against me." And Naruto punched Dosu in the back twice, using his near master of hits precision pressure point attack. He dropped Dosu to the ground without a challenge. As for the other 2, they were hesitant to attack Naruto but rushed in anyways, and the fight ended the same as Dosu's, Naruto using his pressure point technique to take them down. So he moved on to catch up with his team. So back with Sasuke and Ino, a neck extended to bite Sasuke on the neck, and the head sunk its teeth into Sasuke's neck like a vampire, and Sasuke screamed in pain, and Naruto arrived and sees this and runs to Sasuke to try and help him, but the head recoils and returns to the body. Naruto gives chase, but as he was catching up, he just found a pile of snakes slithering away, and Naruto shouted, "Damn it!" and punched the tree out of anger. So he returns to his group and, Sasuke, he's on the ground in pain, so they take him to a safe place to rest. And while he's, doing that, because it's secure, nobody will probably ever find him, they go out and find a team to get the other scroll they needed. And with a forest just filled with Genins, Naruto just pieced up a Genin team and swiped their scroll. So once they returned, luckily Sasuke was still unconscious, so Naruto picks him up and the team heads to the center of the Forest of Death. They make it without any obstacle and open both the scrolls, and from it a smoke cloud appeared and Kakashi said, "Hey, what's up?" So they tell Kakashi about what happened to Sasuke, and Kakashi immediately knew what was going on. This was serious, and he said, "Okay, don't tell anyone about who you saw, I'll take care of it." And he went away with Sasuke. So Kakashi would seal the curse mark, but went to inform Hiruzen of Orochimaru's presence in the village as well. And hearing this, he sent out a fleet of Anbu on a secret mission to capture Orochimaru. So Team 7 waited in the manor for the other teams to arrive, and while the team was just sitting around, Team Gaara arrived and they were shocked to see a team beat them there. And this made Gaara even more curious about what Naruto could do. So they wait, and by the next day all the teams were there and they went into the arena, and Hiruzen announced to everyone there that literally too many people passed and they need to bring that number down, so the preliminary exams were to be put in effect. So first up was Naruto versus Kiba. Kiba was cracking his knuckles and said, "I'm gonna enjoy beating you." While Naruto said, "Don't get too confident," but Kiba didn't care, and as the proctor said fight, Kiba ran in on all fours with Akamaru following behind him. And Naruto sighed and said, "How about you master your clan's ability before using it?" He simply sidesteps Kiba and roundhouse kicks him in the face. And Kiba was mad and he said, "Man beast transformation." And Akamaru turned into Kiba as well and said, "Let's go Akamaru, fang over fang." And Naruto stood there with his hands in his pockets, and Akamaru and Kiba were spinning in tight circles like a drill and kept going through Naruto over and over, unable to hit him, and they became exhausted. Naruto looked up and said, "Done yet? Time to try out my own special attack, Ki Blast." And a glowing purple sphere of energy appeared in front of Naruto's palm, and he said, "This is the end of the road," and shot it towards the two. It moved too fast for them to dodge, and even though it wasn't a direct hit, the explosion of the attack injured them both severely. And after the smoke cleared, the proctor said, "Naruto Uzumaki wins." Ino was the loudest and cheered, and Naruto went back up to the stands. So the other matches went about the same. Sasuke still had the curse mark sealed, so he couldn't use ninjutsu, but won in the end. But one thing that changed though was Ino versus Sakura. Ino won because of her training with Naruto and her better understanding of her clan's abilities. So with Team Dosu also out of the matches, since Naruto defeated them earlier and they didn't make it to the manor in time, the matchups for the finals would be a bit different. It's the usual Naruto versus Neji, Sasuke versus Gaara, Kankuro Shino, Shikamaru versus Temari, and an extra pair, Tenten versus Ino. So the participants had a month to train for the third stage of the Chunin exams. During this month, Naruto spent most of his time in his mindscape. Hit has seen Naruto progress alone, so he decided to train him personally for this month and teach him some of the techniques that made him feared universally. So the 1 month went by fast and it was time to start the third stage. Everyone was there except Sasuke, but they moved on without him. First, it's Naruto versus Neji. As the match started, Neji and Naruto ran to each other and started trading blows. Naruto decided to be more active in this fight, but Neji thought this was an easy win. After all, taijutsu is his specialty. So he started using his gentle fist technique, trying to hit his chakra points, but Naruto kneed Neji in the stomach, then got some distance. Neji quickly recovered and ran to Naruto, but Naruto said, "Time to try out this, time lag." and everyone in the stands was surprised when Neji was moving in slow motion. Naruto smiled and walked up to Neji, elbowing him in the back and sent him falling to the ground, and Naruto stomped on him again. The proctor walked up and flipped Neji over, checking if he was conscious, but nope, he was out cold, and the proctor called the match, announcing Naruto as the winner. The crowd was in complete shock. Naruto won against the prodigy Neji. Hiyashi couldn't look out of shame, and Hinabi said, "How did Neji lose?" And Hiyashi held his head high and got up and said, "He was too weak," and walked off. Next, Gaara versus Sasuke, and like canon, he doesn't show up. He's still perfecting his new technique. So Hiruzen tells them to go on to the next matches, and they'll fight when he comes. So Kankuro versus Shino, of course, Kankuro forfeits as soon as the match starts, giving Shino the win. And people were confused why he did this. He seemed completely capable of fighting, but it didn't matter if he forfeits. So we move on to Shikamaru versus Temari. And this fight was well fought, and after trying every possibility to use shadow paralysis to knock out Temari, Shikamaru simply forfeited the match, saying it would be too much of a drag to continue. Shikamaru's dad, who was watching, he just face palmed and said, "This is such typical Shikamaru." So when it came time for Gaara and Sasuke's fight, Sasuke still was nowhere to be found, and he was about to get disqualified when, in a cloud of smoke, Kakashi appeared with Sasuke ready to fight. So everyone clears the fighting area, and it's just the proctor, Gaara, and Sasuke. He says fight, and this goes basically similar to canon, with Sasuke trying to outspeed Gaara, but his sand defense proving to be too much. But soon after activating his Sharingan, Sasuke was starting to gain an upper hand on Gaara. He was using some of Lee's abilities that he copied with his Sharingan to be able to attack Gaara. And soon enough, after Gaara was being pressured and pressured, he started to create a sand dome around him. And as it was closing, Sasuke tried to get a punch in, but he punched the outside of the dome and a bunch of spikes shot out of it and cut up his legs and arms. Nothing too, serious. Meanwhile, Temari was watching and she was getting scared because she knows what this is doing. Gaara is in the midst of his transformation into his Shikaku state. So after trying over and over to penetrate this dome Gaara has created, Sasuke decided to pull out the technique that he's been working so hard on. So he got a bit of run up. He went up onto the walls of the arena, and once he was at the top, he crouched down and started weaving hand signs and stuck his hand down and said "Chidori" and ran, and a ball of lightning basically started surrounding Sasuke's hand, and he ran down with bolts of it shooting off. And people in the stands were wondering what this was, mainly members of the Konoha 12. So Guy was there explaining what this technique was because he has first-hand knowledge of it because, he is Kakashi's friend, so he would know a lot about his technique. He said it was called Chidori or lightning blade because it was said that Kakashi once used it to cut a bolt of lightning. Even I don't know how true that is, but hey, it's Kakashi. I mean, he could probably do it. So the Chidori went completely through Gaara's dome defense and into his shoulder, and Gaara began screaming in pain, and Temari said, "No, he's injured." So spikes began to form again on the dome, causing Sasuke to jump back, and Gaara kept screaming, "Blood! My blood!" And soon the dome started crumbling away. But Gaara didn't look like his normal self. He was in the half Shikaku state, and this commenced the start of the Konoha Crush. So many ninjas started coming out from hiding, and they put the entire stadium under a genjutsu. Only high-level ninjas like Kakashi and Guy weren't affected, but Genin like Sakura, who knew how to get out of genjutsu, she just did release, and this brought her out of it, so she started waking a lot of different people up. But by this time, Hiruzen was in the barrier fighting Orochimaru, and Sasuke was following Gaara as he was running away. So seeing this, Sakura followed behind him, and Naruto, seeing the both of them, was just facepalmed and said, "Oh, why do I always have to save the day?" So he follows them as well. And so does she. Actually, a lot of people start following. But yeah, Shino intercepts Kankuro and they fight, and on his way to Sasuke, Naruto took down Temari. So when he finally arrives, he sees Sakura pinned to a tree and Sasuke on his last legs, and Gaara came in with his sand arm and punched Sasuke across into a tree, knocking him out. Naruto sees this and was going to rush in, but heard a voice say to him, and this is Hit by the way, "Let me take over, it's pretty boring in here." And Naruto raised an eyebrow, but before he could even ask how that's done, Hit took over his body. Just like how if too much of the Nine-Tails chakra flows through Naruto, you know, it could take over. Well, since Ki is flowing through Naruto, which is from Hit, he can take control in sort of the same way. So Hit starts stretching and cracking his fingers and looked at Gaara and said, "I've seen worse." And he immediately froze time completely and flew towards Gaara, then used time barrage, basically hitting Gaara with a fury of punches. And when time unfroze, Gaara had multiple bruises all over his body, and parts of his body were pushed in from the force of the punches. Shikaku couldn't even come out if he wanted to. That's how badly Gaara was injured, and Hit thought, might have went too far, but he flew up and took Sakura and Sasuke and went to the hospital. Meanwhile, the fight with Hiruzen, nothing changes. Hiruzen unfortunately still dies to the hands of Orochimaru with the help of the first and second Hokage. But before he died, he managed to take away the ability for Orochimaru to use jutsu, so his arms are still useless, but Kabuto came in and helped him return to one of his hideouts. So meanwhile, Hit still had control of Naruto's body and was going around taking down all of the infiltrating ninja from the sand. So after they were all taken care of and the bombs from around the villages were not detonated luckily, Hit gave Naruto back control of his own body, but as he did, Naruto fell over in the streets unable to move because that's how much Hit exhausted his body, and Naruto was not prepared for that. So a few hours later, Naruto woke up in the hospital with Kakashi and Ino while they're waiting for him, and Naruto wasn't even aware of where he was. So Kakashi explained the situation and what he actually did, and Naruto was surprised at Hit's efficiency. It was said he alone took down like 50 ninjas. So due to Hiruzen's death, the elders were tasked to take care of the village, and one of their missions were to find a new Hokage. So they enlisted the help of Team 7 to find Tsunade, since that was their best candidate in their eyes. Jiraiya is really nowhere to be found. He was sent on a mission by Hiruzen to investigate the claims of this up-and-coming group called the Akatsuki and if they were dangerous or not. So that's what he's doing. So in this, Team 7 is the one who sets out to find Tsunade. But before that, let's see what are some of the things the elders had to do in the place of Hiruzen's absence. So first off, the glaring thing was the whole betrayal of their alliance between the Sand and the Leaf. But the Sand found their Kazekage dead, so they were being tricked by Orochimaru this entire time. So the alliance is still in place, but it's not very strong at this point. I mean, if you were attacked by your best friend, I don't think your friendship would still be the same. Also, they coordinated rebuilding efforts of the damaged property, like almost the entire village had some effect from that attack. So with rebuilding underway and Team 7 sent out to find the next Hokage, I feel like that is where I'm gonna be leaving this one off. I just want to say quick thanks to Posh Spooder and Datara. They are channel members, so thanks to them. I forgot to say their names in the intro. I don't know, I might just redo the intro just to say it. But yeah, thanks to them, they are our first channel members. And thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked it, like, and if you like my content in general, subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next What If.